Welcome to the good life.
Hey, welcome, guys. Welcome to the Good Life Visual Audio Podcast. I got Stu here. Say what's up, Stu.
What's up, y'all?
Got to be here.
What up, dope?
There he is. And I'm Chris. Guys, we're diving into how to design your life in health, wealth, and mindset. Today, we're diving into the next episode. I think it's episode 51 that we're diving
51.
into. And today, it's all Stu. So, Stu, take us over, man.
All right, so today, for those of y'all that have been with us for about a year now, we've been doing this live. This is our first recording. Happy to be here with y'all. We just had our compilation episode, so go check that out. Episode 50, huge recap, all the highlights of 2021. Kabiz's already throwing it down. We're having a good day. So today's topic, Getting Things Done by David Allen. I was referred to this book by a client. I am in love with this book and the concept associated. It's all about getting things done. Shocker. So really, it's about organization and how you react to the tasks that come into your atmosphere as you're going about your day. How do you not throw yourself off? And finally, from there, how do you track all this stuff? I work with some business owners that are always trying to figure out, how do I stay productive? How do I stop myself from getting yanked around from one email to the next? Somebody else coming in my office, someone else calling the hotline, whatever. Like, at the end of the day, you staying efficient, and the term "be like water" comes to mind here. Whatever comes across your screen, don't overreact, don't underreact. Just note it. You got a new task, you got to sort it. So, fellas, before I go into David Allen's methodology here, I'd love to hear a little bit about how you guys stay productive. How do you maximize your time and efficiency?
Yeah, it's a good topic because this is actually something I talk a lot about when it comes to switching from the employee mindset to the entrepreneur mindset. For those of you that have been listening to the show, I talk about this every once in a while, that's really one of those mindsets that has to switch. It really just comes down to ownership, something that we talk about, but really that employee mind where you're not really owning things or owning your time or those, things that we kind of pass off into the entrepreneur mindset. Go from employee to entrepreneur, where now you are owning everything. You're owning your space, you're owning your time, you're owning your day, you're owning your results. Everything is yours. And that's the mindset I believe we all have to be in. And the way that I start to get into that place and then be productive with time is really using lists. I'm really big on using lists and kind of planning. A lot of my team and the people I coach, I always talk about planning your day the night before. And it really helps you manage and really understand your time. If there's one thing I've learned by working with a lot of people, most people don't manage their time well. Most people aren't productive in the way that they need to be. Most people aren't, right? We take time for granted. A lot of it's that employee mindset side of things where you're told what to do at a certain period of time. So I think one of the things that helps is really writing things down and planning it out. So planning my day the night before has helped me a bunch. I look at my days in hour-long blocks. Because I'm an entrepreneur, because I don't have to be anywhere at a certain time, I really just evaluate everything from 9 to 10, what am I doing? From 10 to 11, what am I doing? From 11 to 12, from 12 to 1, all the way down. And throughout my day, I can even go back in and be like, how productive was I from 12 to 1? How productive was I from, when you slip into that 30-minute rut of scrolling through social or doing whatever you do, you can go back if you are planning your day hour by hour. And that's something I've adapted that's really helped me. It's helped a lot of other people as well. Just really scheduling your day the night before, using lists, using something to plan your time so that it doesn't get away from you.
I think like a lot of things you said, I think you're going to resonate a lot with this tonight, Chris. It seems to be pretty in line with how you're describing blocking out your day. It's so different than like you said, so different than that employee mindset where you kind of show up and maybe your salary or hourly, like you You just wait till your boss tells you what to do. You wait till someone else gives you the plan. You don't have that luxury when you're driving the ship.
It's so true. It's so true. You don't have that luxury. And it's actually a struggle for a lot of people. We don't understand how deep this is. And, I'm sure you'll probably touch on some of this stuff, but like this thing is deeply rooted because when you do go to transition out, I know so many people that want to be full-time business owners or really run their business. You don't understand how much wasted time you actually have already conditioned yourself to do. Just in general, just by us thinking that it's 5 days on, 2 days off. Again, employee mindset, right? I work 5, I'm off 2. That naturally, when you transition then into full entrepreneurship, you take more days off and time off than you actually should. Because in your brain, it's ingrained that like, oh, well, I'm not being told where to go. So therefore, I can wake up a bit later. I can have lunch a little bit late. I can have dinner a bit earlier, right? Like you start doing things that just waste the efficiencies in your day. And I think that's a huge thing for people to pay attention to is really this time management piece.
Chris, I really appreciate what you shared because from an entrepreneurship perspective, I think it's really important. I think it's probably the number one thing that I know I struggle with for sure. So some of the things, and you asked the question was just kind of speaking to how do you get things done is what I remember. I haven't read this book. It's come up a number of times. I just haven't read it. So I'm excited for you to dive in tonight and see what I pick up and add to my arsenal. I'll say I used to probably overthink this a little bit. And in overthinking it, I actually didn't get as much done. Or even when I did get a lot done, it would come with a lot of anxiety. I felt like I was always walking a really tight rope. And I've kind of adopted, you mentioned be like water, and I've kind of adopted a little bit of that. But in really working within a structure. So having a structure in place, and then within that structure, getting the things I need to get done. So some things that I still stick to, and I've read a ton of other books for sure, but the things I still stick to is 12-week year. That has really helped me kind of go from a granular list making. Sometimes I'll have 4 or 5 lists and they don't maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 things get done here, 2, 3 here and 2, 3 here. And I have all these lists everywhere rather than focusing on what are the essentials? What is the key? What is the A1 that this needs to be done for everything else to move? Because that's usually the case. There's usually something that needs to be done before another thing. And you know what? If I don't get to 4, 5, 6, and 7 today, that's totally fine because I did A, B, C, and that really worked out. So that's been tremendous for me. Prioritizing. What is the priority top down? What is the overall goal? And then what is the priority top down for the things that are actually going to get me there? And you know what? Not worrying about the little things. Delegating the little things if possible. Because sometimes the little things are more fun. Sometimes the little things get caught up. And instead of something that could have probably taken me 2 seconds to do, I'm now spending 30 minutes on. All right. So really figuring out what are the top priorities based on the overall goal that I've set for my year and shortening my year. So I have a shorter feedback loop. That's been really helpful for me. So a 12-week year has been helpful, taken from that perspective. And then the perspective of Brian Tracy, eat that frog, right? Where it's like right from the get-go, and that would be the priority setting thing. What is the thing that I'm avoiding that's probably going to make the biggest difference? What is that thing, all right? And then really eating that frog. And then from that point moving forward, everything that I do kind of feels like, I wouldn't say a bonus, but it's almost like the momentum carries from there, right? I'm avoiding something. I eat that frog, the momentum carries from there. The next thing I know, I'm actually more than halfway through my list. And this is something I was probably better at as an employee. To your point, I was an employee when I was in sales. I'm probably way better at this. And I think one thing I hope we talk about tonight is that as an employee, your tasks are clear. They're not always super clear as an entrepreneur, especially as a young entrepreneur. It's not always clear. As a salesperson, I knew, hey, listen, I hit, bam, 100 calls, have 50 conversations and 20 of them said yes to my offer, that's a great freaking day. All right. I knew exactly what that was. As an entrepreneur, I have to figure out that formula, right? And then execute that formula and then go from there. And I think it takes some time. So the last thing I'll say here that's helped me tremendously is actually watching my wife, who's an attorney, work and how tight their time is. Like they're accounting for 15 minutes. I'm like, holy cow! If I had to account for every 15 minutes,
It's a lot.
so kudos to her, and that's really inspired me to tighten up over the years, just watching that process. Tighten up. What were you doing? Every 15 minutes, pop, putting it in, putting the work in. So those are a few things as to how I work now, and always looking to improve, man.
That's exciting. Yeah, I think both of you guys mentioned different pieces of time management and productivity and prioritization that actually we're all going to cover here today. So I'm really excited about this.
Real quick, I just want to touch on, first off, the book 12-Week Year, amazing book. I second that. Read it a bunch, or I read it twice. Still haven't fully implemented, but understand the concept of shrinking that window. Like you said, for that feedback loop, amazing. And the second thing you said, Brian Tracy, eat that frog. That becomes, by the way, if anyone picks up this model of doing the hardest things first, if you just make that a habit in your life, like you said, could be the momentum of doing that just pushes you into the stratosphere in anything you're doing. If you just plan on doing the hardest thing first. When I was hard in sales, I would always make calls first thing in the morning. My 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. was green time because that's the time that I was doing the hardest thing, the thing I didn't want to do. No one really likes making calls. You can get yourself in the mindset of making calls for sure, but nobody really, really enjoys doing that. And that's why it was always the hardest thing. That's why it was always the first thing that I did. And that becomes your habit over time, and it makes your days and your weeks smoother. So I second all that stuff.
Amen. I think the eat the frog principle is key. Like when you do that hard thing first, like psychologically, if this thing that is the hardest to actually get yourself to start doing, if you tackle that first, everything else seems smaller. Your day is going to feel smoother and easier, like it's tapering down in difficulty. So I love that concept. I'm actually going to kind of switch up some things and try that out for a little bit. So thank you, fellas. All right. So where to start with this? You guys already heard the Be Like Water. That's always resonated a lot with Kabi and I and Chris as well. Bruce Lee, the man. How can you implement one thing in your life to other different areas? Like a lot of the things that he says about martial arts, et cetera, just applies to so many things. So be like water. How does this apply to the things that you have to do on a daily basis? All right. When you are in the middle of a task and things are busy and you're trying to stay productive, if you get a little notification from your email saying, hey, this person just emailed me, and you allow yourself to just dive right into that email and send it, whatever, you may have lost valuable momentum. You've taken the energy to make a decision and change your route, and you've just, that is frequently discussed as like one of the most like energy draining things is to actually make a decision. And you've taken yourself and you've immediately had some type of smooth momentum in one task. You could have been working on that for 20 minutes, lost track of time, crushing it, knocking it out. Now, all of a sudden, you're switching gears. You're changing directions. There's a big energy burnout there. So really, the whole thing about Be Like Water is like, hey, whatever comes in, like, remember the goal. The goal is to stay productive. Should you allow yourself to be yanked around on a regular basis, or even worse, get really frustrated with different things as they come up throughout your day, you're overreacting to the fact that, okay, you just have another thing to do. How can you approach the fact that you have another thing to do in a calm manner? We're going to get to that today. So I'm going to go ahead and break down the 5 steps of getting things done. All right. So first part of this, capturing what comes in. If you have something that comes in, what are the tools that you capture all of these tasks so they don't disappear? So you don't have to reserve any brain capacity of remembering to do something. I am always the first person to stop and just write something down. Chris, you mentioned it earlier. It's huge. Why would I want to reserve my brain power to hold on to a task for later when I could just write it down and come back to it? And that's huge. So capturing your thoughts through external systems. This could be at the most base level. It could be just a quick little sticky note. It could be a notepad, then a notebook, then it could be digital things like OneNote or Trello is a favorite project management software of mine. Honestly, guys, I could not recommend Trello enough. But find how you want to drop things in that works for you. Step 2, clarify what you can do with the things that come in. Is it going to be an action item, or is it an inactionable item? Is it something that you're just going to have to like put into a reference folder somewhere and come back to later? It's just good to know where that is so you can store it. Is it something that you want to delegate, defer, etc.? 3, organize the outcome. So is this a task that requires you to do something now? Is this something that, like, is it less than 2 minutes? I can kind of get into that a little bit later. But, you want to figure out what bucket, what external thing where you're capturing all these action items. Where does it go? Some of the different things to consider: your current project lists, your calendar, things that are like a someday maybe for the future, or just references for document control. Finally, reflection on your priorities could be, you already nailed it. What is the most important thing you have to get done? A thing we talk about here on The Good Life a lot is the 80-20 rule. Like, what are the things that are so important for the least amount of time and energy? Like, focus on those, get them done. Finally, with that reflection process, on a weekly basis, look at the different lists, look at your to-do list, look at all these things, and just set time to review your lists and actually execute on the things that you did not get to throughout the week. Don't allow this massive to-do list to just keep accruing. You keep seeing this thing week after week get bigger and bigger. It becomes like a 3-headed monster. Like, every week, reflect on what you had to get done. A common term that I've heard is introducing a loop list. Like, you go on there and every week you just check it out. Okay, what has ended up on my to-do list? What do I need to do with this? And literally blocking out like 2 to 3 hours a week if you're an entrepreneur, just doing to-dos, or else they're not going to get done. It's too easy to just immediately go to the hard thing all the time. Most of the time I think is effective. But if you always do it, there are these little things that aren't really that important, but they're important enough to where you could lose a client if over time you don't respond to that message. Or you could, just any number of things could happen on these smaller things. So reflect weekly on that. Finally, once you've reflected, just engage and execute on the things that are of most priority now, but making sure that your to-do list is not continuously growing bigger. So fellas, 5 steps: capture, clarify, organize, reflect, execute. What comes up for you guys?
My question is, how often are you following these steps? Is this with every task?
So if you are, let's take email, for example. Email is a really great thing in that if you're in the middle of a task, you can really quickly just look at the blurb and decide, how urgent is this? If I can do it in less than 2 minutes, do I want to? If not, you don't have to do anything with it. It's going to sit there in your inbox. Your collection tool for your email is already there. So you could just simply start. For me personally, I like to review my email twice a day, once in the morning, once in the evening. So that way I can immediately address anything that's come up that makes me want to, potentially slightly tweak the day that I planned. And then at the end, just kind of close some things out, make sure nothing has gone unresponded to. When it comes to other things, like somebody sending you a text or someone just, bringing something to your desk, if you're in like a collaborative work environment, just jot it down immediately and stay with what you're focused on, unless this is like the core principle that he's got here. And this is the clarify piece. If it's less than 2 minutes, can you just do it now? My only argument to this is if you are in a deeply like just in the zone mode, just write it down and stay where you're at. But that's something that where everyone has to bring intuition in on for themselves. If it's greater than 2 minutes, put it on your next action list. You don't have to do it now. Like don't allow yourself to pull yourself away from your main tasks. So to answer your question, I do the capturing thing is whenever something comes up for a brief moment, I think, okay, urgency, how long would it take, delegate, defer, where do I want to put it? If not, okay, I don't need to do it right now. It's not going to be that quick. Let me stay on my current process and just make sure it's accounted for somewhere. That's like an ongoing thing. I do the weekly reflections though. That's been huge. That has totally changed my productivity. I block out 2 to 3 hours for the end of the week, typically a Thursday evening, and I just go ham on the stuff I said I would do. That's not super urgent, so I've been putting it off.
That's cool. I was going to ask you that question too. Like, what day of the week do you recommend? Because when you say like once a week type of thing, is this like a Sunday night thing? But you said it's Thursday for you, huh?
Yeah, for me it's Thursday. If I book things other than client sessions or interpersonal meetings, like if no one else is involved, if I have something Friday afternoon or weekend, I know myself, it's going to make it very difficult for me to discipline myself and do that. I prefer to make things where I am not going to back out of this. If it's on a Friday, it's going to be a client, it's going to be a business meeting, it's going to be something involving others. And that's just part of like the flow. Like you introduce Sundays. I know a lot of people have like a preparation Sunday. It really is making it your own. And that's why, Chris, you said something earlier. Like, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it made me think like, for whoever's listening to this, find and listen to the different organizational time management, productivity things, but you got to make it your own. There's so many different options out there. Do the trial and error. And this one so far has been working very well for me.
Yeah, because I was gonna say there's some things in there that like, so let's take that 2 minute thing for example. In my own personal routine, in my own personal schedule, I read a book called Fanatical Prospecting by Blount, and that book helped me organize what I was just telling you, my green time, right? When I'm calling prospects or reaching out to people, it helped me organize that time. Because what would happen, and maybe this happens to some of you guys listening, that you'll be in the midst of, let's say, just in general, reaching out to people. You're a small business or, you're in sales, whatever it is. You start reaching out to prospects, reaching out to potential clients, doing your follow-up calls, whatever it is. And because we have so many different mediums of reaching out to people, it could be a phone call, but it could also be a text message, or it could be an email, or now it could be a DM, or now you could send, right, a voice message on WhatsApp or whatever, right? There's so many different ways. So what would happen to me is I'd make 3 phone calls, and then after making 3 phone calls, I would then send 2 text messages because I had that text pop up and I was like, oh yeah, that's a client or that's a prospect. And then I'll go into and send like, oh yeah, I forgot to send those 2 emails to that person. I'll send 2 emails. I'll pick my head up after 2 hours or 3 hours, and I would have made like 5 calls, sent out 4 emails, had 4 DMs, right? And that would be the day, and I wouldn't feel as productive. What I learned in that book, Fanatical Prospecting, is he talked about blocking out time. So he says, hey, if your first 30 minutes is all emails, then just emails. Even if that text message comes in and you could respond, don't, because you're in your email time. Your text message time may come 30 minutes later. It may come an hour later. That's up to you when you put it. But like whatever you're doing for that selected time that you said you're going to do it, just do that. And that helped me tremendously, because then I went from like I said, sporadic calls, sporadic emails to, oh, I made 30 calls today. I sent out 15 emails. I sent 17 DMs, right? All in the same amount of time. It's just my attention wasn't going different places. I wasn't checking Instagram to send the DM and then looking at my email and be like, oh, let me get to that email too, just because it's all in the same bucket. So, I maybe wouldn't necessarily, if it takes a short time, if I'm locked in, I might not do any of it. You know what I mean? Like if it's a phone call and I'm in social media time, I won't take that phone call just because this social media time is important. So
Mm.
I think there's all different types of ways to do it, but it is about you figuring out what works best for you and what makes you the most efficient.
I think it really you hit a huge point right there, and I think it really comes down to attention, right? We as human beings, I don't believe that we're able to do that sporadic sort of attention going everywhere and be successful. I could be wrong there. I'm sure there are people out there, but in general, my experience with sales, that has never worked for me. So what you actually just reminded me of something tremendous I need to re-implement in my life, is that setting that set time and set. And I never, I never thought about it more in the sense of like social media, email, text, and those type of meetings, because those are very different. Right? They are very different. Once you hop on social media, that could be a wrap for like 2 hours,
For the
right?
whole day for some people. Like you go in a rabbit
Yeah,
hole, never know.
that could be a wrap. So like doing, let's say you said email, text, phone calls, um,
DM.
DMs.
Mhm.
That's 2 hours right there, 30 minutes apiece.
Hmm.
You could fire off, or I could probably fire off 50 messages in that time span, leave 20, 25 voice messages or whatnot, and be far more productive. And then the next time come around, you got a 24-hour return response window, and it's still keeping it real tight and keeping everything kind of rolling. And that's when you start to see traction. And I think I really like that. I really like that. So thanks for reminding me of that. I was like, whoa, he on something. Brother on something today.
Listen, this is how you got to live your life when you're the entrepreneur, right? Like you got to learn how to do all this stuff. You got to learn what works for you, how to become the most productive. Because again, hopefully everyone that's listening, again, designing the good life, you're not meant to just work forever, right? Like your whole day is not just supposed to be working. So we have to figure out how to be productive in the time given so that we can work and then have the rest of our life or do the other things we want to do, but be as efficient as you possibly can be in that time. And these are the little tools and things that you need in order to be efficient. It's helped me in my life. And I know when I talk to other people that are transitioning or just starting off or really, just in their entrepreneurial journey, this helps them structuring your half an hour, your hour with a task and just doing that task and eliminating all other distractions, no matter how simple it could be, right? No matter how quick that could be. Now, that being said, I'm also a guy that sends emojis as responses to text messages because it only takes me 6 seconds.
I see nothing wrong with that, by the way. That's the day and age we live in. Because I used to feel kind of weird about that, but now like it's common. It's common. I think what's cool is like watching millennials, ourselves included, change the game. Like, people are always asking like, so what's the best way to contact you? Email is like, actually, no, I would prefer you contact me through text or phone. Email is kind of archaic to me. If you send me an email, that's great. I'll get to it. But we're looking at probably closer to a 12 to 48 hour window. You send me a text, you call me, man, I'm there a lot quicker. I would prefer to have audio message and phone calls from all my clients, but that's just my personality. That's what you got to figure out works for you. And that's what I love about how, as soon as I remember reading this under 2 minutes or greater than 2 minutes thing as a part of this. And it really does seem like the stickiest, like, I don't know, part of it, because like I opened with, like, if you've got momentum on the task, why allow yourself to become distracted? Like, obviously you can't help but note that a notification has come through your phone or things like that. Although a lot of my work, I will go do not disturb for a while. Well, a recommendation I'd heard about that weekly reflection where you're knocking out those to-dos is, man, put it on airplane mode. Like, just shut the world off, because there's going to be a part of you that wants to prioritize the most recent action, but you have specifically blocked out this time to make sure that stuff from this week doesn't make it to next week.
Do you use your do not disturb mode? Business owners, people that are like, I don't ever use my do not disturb mode, but I know how helpful it could be. So I'm curious how many people actually use their do not disturb mode on their phone.
I'm
It's
super curious as well because I don't use it particularly. Going back a little bit, actually, to your point about the 2 minute, less than 2 minute piece, I wonder if it's different. We're kind of talking more about prospecting. I wonder if it's different with other tasks, right? So let's say I'm doing something else where I want to be present, right? Maybe something more creative, maybe it's something else, and something does come in that will take me 2 minutes to whether respond or whatever. What are your thoughts on that? Does it change whether you're prospecting versus taking on other tasks?
I think in theory it should not change. However, when you bring up staying present, like I know for me in particular, like there are some things that'll come across my desk. I can try and say I'll do it later, but it's gonna stay right here. It's gonna be so hot that I'm like, I got to respond to this. I'm spending so much time trying not to think about this thing that I could have done the thing by now. So I think, in general, prospecting has such a rhythmic nature to it. You guys have already mentioned this. Like, you get in the feel of doing the calls, you get in the feel of the emails, the texts, the DMs. I think it just depends on the task. I hate answering questions with it depends, but like it really like understanding yourself and knowing like what are the things like for me, I know on Friday I can't do my weekly reflection. I also know that when I am on a session, if I allow myself to be distracted by my phone for a moment, the intuitive connection I have with a client could be severed. I could lose my train of thought. I do not like putting that connection down for anything. But we all have very different professions here. Like for me, like I'm literally like in their head. So like losing that for a moment to see, someone just went live on Instagram. It's like, I didn't need to know that right now. So just being able to put that on do not disturb is clutch. For me, like every time I'm in session, it's on there. As soon as I'm on the phone with my client, I know they're not trying to reach me through another medium. We're on do not disturb. And then the airplane mode, I've done it a couple times. It's effective, especially if you put it on airplane mode and you put that phone somewhere else. We all know how likely it is to be distracted by something. If I can like actually block out time to do computer work, it can be big.
So, how distracting is one's phone? You think another poll question, right? How distracting is your phone? I feel like if you're not careful, like your phone is the most distracting thing that we have access to. And the crazy thing is we have access to it all the time. That's why we're all so damn distracted.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure that's, people limit their time on social, but people really should limit their time touching their phone. I don't know if people actually do that. Again, these are things I've learned for myself. I've put that in. I have a rule outside of my devotion in the morning or like the interval timer that I use now back on Tabatas. Shout out Kabi. My interval timer that I have on my phone, or the waking up app. Outside of those three things, I don't touch my phone before 9 a.m. Like meaning I don't look at an email, I don't look at a text, I don't look at it. Like I take that back. I'll have a bunch of notifications. I'll scroll down. I'll see, is there anything on fire, right? Like, is there any emergency that I need to pay attention to? And even then, that's a quick glance, not even in depth. It's just like, oh, is there anything? No, nothing. Okay. And then I go into my day. I won't touch my phone after that until 9 a.m. That's like a real boundary I've put in. I also don't sleep with my phone. Sleep with my phone in a completely different room. Also for those same reasons. But I think our phones are very distracting. It's a conversation I think we have to have more of, so people can understand how to navigate their phone, because we use it so much,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can tell you for me personally, my phone is the most distracting thing in the world. I mean, I've been accused of being, I say accused, I've been told I might be ADD or ADHD. I personally love this part about me, but I know the con is a bright shining light coming out of nowhere or sound coming out of nowhere. And all of a sudden my mind is like, ooh, what's that? And I hate that. So for me personally, that do not disturb is massive. Keeping it away from me, keeping it on vibrate when I just don't need it is great. leaving it in the other room. I do sleep with it in my room. It is my alarm clock, but I keep it off my bed. I think so many people underestimate how keeping your phone on your bed can just mess with you. Like if it's on vibrate or something, like your whole body is now feeling this thing while you're trying to be in like REM cycle. So I keep it away from me. For a lot of my clients trying to wake up early and change their habits, I'll recommend that they keep the phone on the other side of the room. Like just make sure you had to get up and go get it. So those are some like nice practical tips around phone use. I think. Good call.
Yeah.
I would say my phone's not really that distracting to me. I can very easily turn my mind off to it or onto it whenever I so choose. I think it's more so I might keep it away from me more so for health reasons, more so that consistently having that near your body is not the best thing, right? So if I put it somewhere, it might be for that reason, or I intentionally just say I'm doing something now, and I might see it right there, and light comes on. Oh, that's cool, and I go back to what I'm doing. So it's not really a problem, but I like all of those things in place. Actually, those times are when I do use my phone the most. I use my phone the most in the morning, and I use my phone in the night. When I'm starting out, whether it's maybe too much information, I'm in the bathroom when I'm usually using Instagram. All right, I'm using Instagram. Usually it's my bathroom time. Both times to cap it off. If I respond to something during the day, it's because I got 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, or whatever. But most of the time, it's not throughout the day. If I have time, I'm using my phone. But if I'm doing something, you're really not gonna catch me. Not vibration is not necessarily gonna catch me in terms of distracting me from it. But you got to know yourself. I think that's what it's coming down to. Do you know yourself? And discipline is not, are you distracted or not? Discipline is putting things in place because you know yourself to not fall into those temptations, right? So if you continue to put yourself in those spaces and you become distracted, then I mean that's setting yourself up to fail. Alexis on here on Instagram briefly said focus mode on iPhone has a setting now where you can allow notifications from specific contacts to come through. Great. That sounds like a whole lot of technology work, though.
But
you guys use that?
I don't. Well,
I've never used it. That's a new one.
I'm not an iPhone user anyway. Team Android.
Stop cursing on TV.
Team Android. Like I said. Anyways, Alexis, thank you for that comment. It shows how much Apple understands that these things are distractions. Right? When they add new features in to help you focus, there's a reason. It's because they realize this is causing people to not focus. So let's put something on there called focus mode so you can actually focus on the task at hand. So again,
I'm sure Apple doesn't want you to focus on your phone as much. I'm sure that's what they want. Yeah.
No.
So what I like about this,
of a problem it is. That's
thank goodness Apple is helping us use our phones less. Oh, thank you, great Apple.
And Alexa said it's super easy too. So either way, if I were an iPhone user, I would use it. Probably not, but maybe.
I remember seeing focus mode pop up a lot when I go to select Do Not Disturb. And what I liked about the old Do Not Disturb is how you can set like what contacts can actually get through your Do Not Disturb, like your parents, like your emergency contacts, etc. So it sounds like focus mode has something to do with this as well. I will say going on and off from Do Not Disturb and setting some of those settings, it is pretty easy. So I wouldn't be surprised if focus is the same way. But what I also wanted to kind of draw attention to here is the dichotomy that you guys kind of talked about. Like, Chris, you got a sharp rule of no phones morning and night. Could be, sounds like the kind of like the opposite, like it's one of your morning and evening rituals. I'm actually on the same page. Those that follow me recognize that I'm pumping out stories late at night when I'm getting in bed. That's like when I finally slow down and it's like, okay, like let me get some story time here. Or when I wake up, like let me see what's up. Like I feel like I'm in a very creative space. Like I'm not really thinking about the day so much. I'm in like this ether between relaxation and what am I supposed to be doing right now. It just allows me to just connect with my audience. So one of the reasons why I like to bring this up is, like you guys have said, you got to understand yourself, what works well for you, because this whole thing today is about getting things done. Distraction is a huge part of that. So knowing when you can optimize like the different tasks that works for you is great. Chris, you mentioned the mornings were great for prospecting for you. For me personally, I've noticed that I like to have my client sessions late morning, afternoon, evening. I'm fresh. I'm good to go. I like to kick my days off with a live, like just doing different things to figure out what works for you is key, because you want to get things done. David Allen's provided a template. You've already heard us kind of toss around some different alternatives on what works for us and what doesn't, what seems kind of weird about it, what doesn't. I wanted to, yeah.
Go through those 5 things again, because I think it's important just for a refresher.
For sure. All right. So getting things done, 5 steps. Number 1, capture whatever comes to mind as an item. Put it down somewhere. Do not waste your brain space with trying to remember these things. I've done it before. I've forgotten almost all of it before, especially in construction when you get just task after task and call after call. Don't try and remember stuff, guys. You don't need to do that to yourself.
Real quick, and I'll let you get right back to it because I asked you to do it. But
I'm gonna let you finish. But
I'm gonna let you finish. But that resonated with me because I remember somebody saying our brains are not meant for storage; they're meant for creativity, right? And too often we try to store things there, but really the brain needs to be creative. So that's why we write stuff down. We got to capture it somewhere. Go back.
Dude, no, honestly, I'm so glad you brought that up. I've got buddies of mine. We kind of joke on each other. Like, one of them is so happy that he remembers everything, and I'm so thrilled that I'm just ready to problem solve. Like, give me something to wing, give me something to just adapt to, because there's a Stephen Hawking quote that I'm gonna have to paraphrase, where it's like, true intelligence is the ability to adapt to change. And I think that if you can learn how to adapt to change and problem solve and have your live cut out all at the same time, then you just got to be able to wing it and stay on point. So like for me personally, like problem solving is huge. And I think when it comes to identifying quickly, like, where do I capture this? Where do I put it down? This is a problem solving thing. I think we are meant for this. We're not meant for storage. So that's perfect. It's right on brand. So 2, clarify what you have to do. Like, once you've captured it, like, clarify, like, what can you actually do with this? You've written it down. Cool. It's not going to get lost. Like, and this is where it seems like all of us are a little bit shaky about his method. Do we like the idea of spending any energy at all clarifying what to do about the thing, when all of a sudden we may have lost momentum on the current task? But at the end of the day, at least knowing what you have to do about something, you're going to have to do that at some point. So that's the second step. Capture the thing, clarify what you're going to have to do with it. Finally, organize the outcome. This comes into putting it in the different buckets where you organize your information. If you have to do it in the future, I'll go into more detail on this right now. If you have to do it in the future, he has this idea of a next action list, where you are saying you're going to have to do it in the future, and that's all your future to-dos. It's the closest thing to your to-do list. But having a due date on there is key for me. I don't like to let my clients leave their session or myself without having a due date on a to-do list, or else it can just add up, man. 2, a calendar. If it's something you have to do in the future and you know exactly when you're going to do it, I most of the time will stop whatever I'm doing to put something in my calendar. Most of the time. I had to be pretty deep into a thought where I just jot it down real quick in like some chicken scratch, but it's going to go on my calendar. And I think while we're talking about calendar, events and reminders, like, you guys know how it is. I'd love to hear your thoughts and your experiences with a calendar. Like, is that your most important tool? I can say for me, it certainly is.
Yeah, I would say for me it is, for sure. I prefer to calendar things than do reminders than do anything else, because then, like you said, there's a time frame, and I know exactly what's happening, how much time it's going to take. I put it down, and I know eventually it's going to come around, right? So there's very, very little risk of forgetting, very little risk of maybe remembering, but not setting a particular structure to getting it done. So yeah, I like the calendar things, definitely.
Yeah, I second that. By the way, how important is your calendar? How often do you use your calendar? I think this is essential for everybody that is an entrepreneur or wants to be one. It's essential. Like I live my life off of my calendar. I wouldn't know what today is if I didn't look at my calendar. I literally wouldn't know if it's Saturday or if it's Wednesday. I would have no idea. Like I literally have no process of like what day or time. I really don't know because
Yeah.
everything is just like, it's structured. I know my days, I know what's going on. So every day can kind of blend into the next. That calendar is incredibly important. The system I have is I use Google Calendar for all my things. I have a task reminder that I use as a separate app, and then I have like my Notes app or my Evernote app, right? And I use those three things in conjunction to keep me relatively organized. But that Google Calendar is everything. If you're not on my calendar, I'll forget that we just talked, a day ago. Literally,
Goodness, Chris.
yeah, I know it's that way. But again, it's, when I get busy, when I'm talking to a lot of people, when I have a bunch of things, Stu, I'm like you, I have to put it on the calendar right away. I literally, if I get off of an appointment and we just set a time, I put it in the calendar right away. Because otherwise, if I wait 4 hours, I'm like, what time was that? What day was that? When did I say? I really will have zero recollection of that. Those are the things that I don't, I choose to not let my brain store, right?
Mhm.
I just let that stuff go out because, right, I'm going to get another appointment coming up. So calendars are super important.
Yeah, I'm a big Google Calendar guy too. I just love the fact that it ties to your email, it ties to like Google Sheets. I just love the whole Google platform. I use pretty much
Are
all
there
that
any
stuff.
other type of calendars? I thought it was
Yeah.
just Google.
That's
Microsoft,
it. That's the only one.
I mean, that's the only one that matters, but Microsoft
Yeah,
Outlook has a count, like Microsoft has its own
Outlook.
calendar. Like, yeah,
dude,
Outlook.
Outlook is the corporate machine, bro. Like that
yeah,
is the thing in corporate is Outlook.
I guess we're in the world of entrepreneurs, so I know Outlook
exactly.
over here. But I like Asana actually as a task manager. I've been using it for a while. Just kind of picked up the habit at a couple of startups, and yeah, I really like Asana.
I gotta check
Works
that
really
out. I've
well.
heard of that before. I think you've hyped it up before, actually. Cool. Well,
But mostly because I'm familiar with it. I'm not gonna lie. I've never used Trulio, so maybe Trulio is better.
yeah, yeah, it's a Trello, and it's
Trello. Look at that. Look at
yeah,
that.
look at
Trello.
that.
Look at that.
Yeah, yeah.
Trello, and I love this. It's a project management tool in the sense like I'll try and paint a picture. Like it has different columns, and you put different cards within those, and you can attach things, and you can put due dates. You can do everything, and just I love it because I have my way of organizing things. So when I step into a client's world, into their brain, how do they think? I can very easily change it to where it works for both of us. Some of my clients that get really into it, Archer included, he'll go in there and he'll change the whole thing and leave my couple columns that I told him like, hey, I'd really need these to say this way, and he'll make the whole thing his own. And yeah, Alexa's has resonated with Asana too. So yeah, it's out there. I gotta check this out.
Yeah.
All right, the other
Aaron
types
and
of
Google Calendar too.
yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah, awesome, man. We're all synced up over here. So when it comes to organization in general, I feel like this is like the 101, 202, 303 opportunity. So at the zero level, there's nothing. There's no external document. It's I know this has to happen. I know I got to be at this shift on at this time. Like I'll just go there. That's like keeping it all up here. I think is level zero. Like you can do it, but I just don't know why you would want to. If you have too many tasks, like it's going to become overwhelming, and you're risking your own word when you say you're going to be there and say you're going to do something on your memory, which we've all here identified could be the weakest part of your brain's capacity. So that's level zero. Level 101, sticky notes, notepads. It's better than nothing. Get it out of your head, capture it, put it down somewhere, because at least you can develop your own rudimentary process for this. Level two, to-do list with dates. Put the dates on there. Have a date for like when you logged it in for each page. So that way, if you ever think, okay, I had this appointment then, when would I put this in my to-do list? You go back, like it helps a lot. But also dates on just like when you had to get the thing done by. I think with also level 2, you begin to get into like a very high level calendar use. Like, you'll see some students having a calendar for their classes. You'll see different people in jobs. If they don't work a straight 9 to 5, they'll have a calendar on when their shift is going to be. You take yourself to the 303 when you just go all in on specifics. I have everything on my calendar. I will book if I have like a date with somebody. I have it on my calendar. Like if I'm going home to see my parents, if I have to like go to the gym, if I'm planning to do it, then it goes on my calendar. I turn things red when they don't actually happen. I'll like comment things, I'll move them around. So when I do my reflection, if I got a lot of red, I didn't do what I was said I was going to do that week quite a bit. So that's my thought. How would you guys kind of break it down, or what are your thoughts?
First off, I really like that, Stu. I never actually even thought about changing the color if it didn't happen. That's actually something that I'm actually going to implement just from us talking right here, because
That's my win for the day, brother. I'm hyped.
Yeah, that's a huge deal. I was in the process before I got distracted and sidetracked. I was in the process of calculating how many appointments I went on in 2021. I didn't do it. I was just kind of tallying up all the way through my Google Calendar. But then I remembered some of those just didn't go through. They were on the calendar, but I just, the appointment fell through or whatever, and I never changed it. So I was like, did I do
So
that?
how do you track it? Yeah.
Exactly. So then it got all wonky when I got into like March or April. I was like, I'm not going to do this. Right. And I just got distracted and went off. But like, that's such a key nugget that I think could help a lot of people. It'll help me just to start tracking like what actually goes through versus what doesn't go through. I'm also the same way though. I put everything on the calendar. Once you get an actual calendar link, some of you might use Calendly, right? I use Calendly as a link. If you have a link that you send out to people and you want to keep it like mine is fairly broad, fairly open, I have to make sure I put all of my stuff on the calendar because otherwise it'll show me as open when I know
you're not actually open. Yeah.
I'm not open and things. And that's the worst when someone schedules with you on your calendar link and then you have to message back, oh, I'm not actually available at that time. Can you pick another time or reschedule it for something on the first initial time they set up with you? It's a little annoying. So I always have been now in the mindset of got a haircut earlier today. All right, in the calendar. You know what I mean?
Buffer time for my barber showing up on time.
That's serious. That's serious. You got to buffer a couple hours for this guy. But for real, like, buffer that time. It's a 2.5 hour block so I can make sure no one schedules. But like everything goes on the calendar. That zero level 0 before you get to the 101 level is where most people transitioning into entrepreneurship actually are. I've come across so many people, countless, that are in the process of starting a business or starting their thing. We set an appointment out for a week later, and I know they don't put it on a calendar and then they don't show up, right? These are people that like want my help. They want my help. They want my insight. They want my business. They want financial help. They want social media work, right? They want anything. And because that's how I operate, I will give you my time. If you came from a trusted place, if we have a good conversation, I will give you 30 minutes. I will give you an hour of my time. I put it on my calendar because that's how I run my life. And then they don't show up. It's because they don't run their life that way. They're still in whatever mode, job mode, who knows what they're in. And that thing never hit their calendar and was never important enough to them. It's tough, but like sometimes I don't circle back around. That lets me know exactly where you are as a business owner. I would love to help. But if you're at a 0 level, you're not even taking accountability for your schedule, for your calendar. Like that's a huge red flag. And I highly encourage any business owners or people starting off in entrepreneurship or getting your business off the ground. Like maybe this is just me because you guys know me now, right? Like I'm very punctual. That time is a big deal. I just think it should be a big deal to everyone that's an entrepreneur. Right? It's a big deal to everyone because it's our limited resource. You are showing someone that you either A, respect them and respect your time, or you're showing them that B, you don't respect them or your time. So at the end of the day, I would be like, listen, you gotta run your life on a calendar if you want to be successful in owning your time.
10-4.
I totally agree. I don't work with people like that. It's easy solve. I actually don't. People make fun of, or ever since college, really, people have made fun of me for putting these practices in place, using calendar, like putting all these things in place. But like, to me, it was like just common sense. It was like, well, what do you mean? How else do you know? I know I forget stuff all the time. Like, how do you know how much time you have? How do you know that? But I think what's interesting is that people will do that they for work. Like they'll have their work calendar and stick to that, but they don't necessarily have it for their personal life. So I'm guessing, I don't know, that when they switch over, they don't have that system in place for their own life. So then they don't implement that, right? But they had it, work controlled everything. Everything revolved around work. I think people get really, really, really comfortable having everything revolve around work. So when you remove that work aspect, then it really shows kind of where everything else is. So I don't know if you guys have seen that or not, or noticed that.
Oh yeah. I am the textbook definition of level 0. Hey, I'm entering the entrepreneurial world like back in March of 2020. Like I was so confident that this was going to be a breeze. And starting a business is a lot of fun, but it may not be the easiest thing to do. And I walked into it where all of my external systems were work related. Everything I knew, accountability, when to be there, like just all of it. And yeah, you're right, dude. Like all I had was a work calendar. So now all of a sudden I don't have structured work hours. I don't have a boss telling me what to do and when to do it. And now I don't have a calendar. So looking at these things, a lot of the people I work with are anywhere from like 17 to like 54 right now. So some of the younger folks don't use their calendar. It's one of the first things I try and like work with them on. It's like, dude, time management. Chris, curious to hear your thoughts. I think time management is more important than money management. And like when you're starting at certain levels, like, man, you have got to be looking at your time. You can't get it back. You can make more money. You can change how much you spend. You can change your income, but you cannot get back the time.
I would agree. Even being the wealth guy on here, even being the money guy,
you don't have to lie though.
He's like,
it's because time is the thing that's finite, right? Like we live in abundance. Like you can make more money, just like you said. You can make more money. Money comes and goes. You bring it in, goes out. You don't ever get more time. We don't ever get back these past 2 hours that we just spent talking. We don't get this back. So it better be valuable if you're going to do it. And for the people, right? My wife, I love her, right? Like she won't be that mad. But she used to have an issue with showing up late places. Like it was okay. And I was like, it's so disrespectful. Like it was such a big thing for us to talk about. I'd be like, that's so disrespectful. Like you're disrespecting that we don't get this time back. They don't get this time back. I know you might think you're busy, but like they're busy too. They have things. So by you showing up 15 minutes late everywhere we go, it's like, do you respect them? And then do you respect our time? And so that becomes a big conversation. I think that time, you're right, Sue. Time management, often more important than money management. Right? If you don't know how to manage your time, you probably won't know how to make money in general. Right? You won't understand how to go out and do this yourself and like actually live a life where you can go make money, work, have a good life, focus on your health, focus on your relationships, do all those things. You're probably not going to be able to do that if you can't understand how to run your calendar. You can't understand how to run an hour of your day, right? The rest is going to be a struggle.
If I may, I agree. But if I may put another kind of perspective on the table as well, I do think it's a function of culture. And I know nobody's going to necessarily agree with this, but I have lived in other cultures where that was not necessarily the case. And
what was not the case? People being late?
The level of importance that we're placing on time and punctuality right now. That was not a conversation. That was not a thing, right? That was, And I'm not saying I necessarily agree with that or it makes things, but like it is a function of culture. It's a function of how things work here and other places that work like this, right? But there is definitely other places where we may say, you know what, then I don't want to be there. Okay, fine, that's fine. That's all good, and that's all good and dandy. But that does exist. Like it's not like just like like it, I hesitate to say that because I know a lot of wealthy people that aren't necessarily punctual.
Sure.
I know a lot of people that do well that aren't necessarily punctual, and they have to in this system learn how to adapt and how to do that. All right, I'm not saying it's the best thing to do wherever, but I just feel the need to just put that does exist. That is out there, and it's not necessarily
It does.
it does exist.
So I think, when it comes to business and whether or not punctuality should be prioritized, I think it just depends on like the number of people. No, let me even go higher level. It depends on the expectation. What is the common expectation of the group of the U.S. versus of I don't know, of Ghana, or even within the U.S. Different types of cultures in the U.S. have very different ideas of punctuality. But if everyone's on the same page, usually things tend to work out. When it comes to highly successful people that aren't punctual, I'd imagine that their business model, or at least what they do on a daily basis, doesn't involve a whole lot of other people. I would imagine it's more like one of my clients who's trying to build like a drop shipping type thing. I mean, it's just him. Like he doesn't really need to be punctual. But, you start working in our atmospheres where we're interacting with clients and like other people, and, like it becomes like almost a bit more of a necessity. But I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah. And I'm not even necessarily saying a question of it, whether should or should not. That's not even really what I'm saying. I'm just saying, let's acknowledge that is a thing. I've been to Trinidad and Tobago where I ordered KFC and took 2.5 hours. Just what it is, right? I'm just saying, because we're talking like this, and we all agree, by the way. I don't disagree with anything you guys said. We all agree.
Yeah.
But when you travel, it kind of hurts my soul a little bit when I hear people speak in such a egotistical way, like to putting down the local, like the local culture and local God, they can't be on time, blah, 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 blah. Bro, that's just not the way it is here.
That's not how it is. Yeah, that's not the expectation here. You are the intruder into this atmosphere.
Right. Yeah. So that always bothers me. I'm like, who do you think? Don't you think we're all waiting? Who do you think you are? Like, calm down. But yeah, in our line of work, entrepreneurship, like if that's how you will not do well. End of story.
And and I'm glad you put that in context too, because it is this country. Like we're talking about our society. You go places in Europe, you go
even
anywhere.
The factions of our society.
Yeah, that's true. Even
Europe, even Europe.
Yeah.
Right. We have lunch for freaking 3-4 hours.
Exactly. So anywhere you go, right? Like it's gonna be different. The pace of life is different. People value different things. Right? People value different things. And that's really what it comes down to. We happen to be having this conversation from an entrepreneurship, business owner type of standpoint. But absolutely, like different places, different paces, different times, different things that you value. Talks about how quickly you move through things, right? It's not as important for me to rush through and get your KFC in Trinidad and Tobago, right? It's just not as important to me. Like I just, what I mean?
2.5 was generous.
I need it now.
2.5 was generous. And let me add this last piece here as well too. We leave this culture to go rest and relax in the other one.
Right.
So I just think it's important to recognize that we give up this hustle and bustle, this be on time, be punctual, be blah, 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 to go what? To go relax and not be so on time and have lunch when we want to have lunch and do that when we want. So, I just, just a little perspective is really good.
For sure. The pros and cons of the different cultures. See, like you said, like you go to some place where, it's island time is what I've like heard a lot when I would go to like Bahamas and stuff. Like, it's not a big deal. The guy said he'd be here at 5. It's 7. Like, he's pretty much on time. But it just depends. There's pros and cons. Like you said, like the relaxation, like the lack of like having to like be always looking at the watch. But yeah, with like, within the context of entrepreneurship, pretty sure all of us have watches. Am I right?
I don't have a watch.
Negative, sir.
Really? Strike one. All right.
Yeah. There you go. That's what I'm talking about right there.
Yeah, because for me, I need this bad boy. I'm looking at this thing all the time, and I enjoy it. But I think to kind of put like a bow on getting things done in general, if I were to break this down, the better your document control and the better your idea of how you work well and productively, it's really all we've talked about tonight. We've just gone into different ways to do it. Understanding like your business model and what you need to prioritize based on time, money, sales interactions, like getting like into the weeds on the specific tasks. Like, go ahead and capture whatever the task is, clarify what you need to do with it, organize it around the document control systems you have in place. The better that you have the certain documents like in line, like the better you're going to be able to find stuff. It's going to make things smoother. I used to resist this so much in project management and construction, but then I found out like I've been resisting this thing that my superiors have been telling me to do, to track things and organize them properly. Yeah, it takes a little bit of time to set up. Maybe it takes an extra second or two when you actually get the thing in, but you're going to spend a lot of time trying to find it if you forget where you put it. So that would be my advice. Closing comments, fellas?
No, I really we've kind of summed it up, what you have to do to really get things done. Like, that's really what this is about. It's about being efficient, being productive, again, getting to that good life, getting to the place where you're designing the life that you want, and your health, your wealth, your mindset, your relationships, all of those things. You're going to have a sense of how to get things done, how to prioritize things, how to, where to write things down, how to use a calendar. These are things that are just essential. And again, they don't get taught everywhere, right? You're not getting taught these types of things unless you are around other business owners, other entrepreneurs, other people that are striving to design their life. So we just want you to take this info today and apply it. Apply it. The stuff that Stu gave you is all things that you can apply actively right now, whether it's a sticky note, whether it's setting up your Google Calendar, whether it's going to, was it Asana? Is that what it's called? Asana?
Mm-hmm. Asana, that's right.
Yeah, going there. Like, it doesn't matter. Take something from it and actually use it and implement it, because that's going to help. So, Kabi, did you have anything?
All right. That's it for us today. So if you guys heard something that you like, subscribe, smash that like button. Tune in next Monday for another good one, and share with somebody that would love or hate this. All press is good press. Tune in next Monday or Wednesday if you're on iTunes with us. And until next time, keep living the good life.